Am I audible? All right, great. Good evening, everyone. So welcome to the class where we are going to learn ethics through terminologies. You must have got your sheet, right? Okay. So my name is Akash and I'm a faculty of ethics and social issues here because both of them are very overlapping. And I have appeared in 4 civil services interviews. I have written 6 prelims and I have written 6 mains and faced 4 interviews. That's I have cleared this examinations main stage 4 times. All right. So that's my stint in this examination. And in this class today, we are going to learn about ethics through terminologies. The ethics as a syllabus, if you look, it has a lot of terminologies that are given in that syllabus. Like, for example, if you look at the chapter for this paper itself, the paper is ethics, integrity, and aptitude. This is the name of your general studies paper 4. General studies paper 4, 250 marks. Good evening. 250 marks paper, which is usually on the third day of your examination. First day is your essay paper. Second day is your GS1, GS2. Third day is your GS3 and GS4. This paper has been introduced by UPSC in the year 2013 because it was found out that the officers who were entering into bureaucracy, they were not maintaining the ethical standard the way it was expected out of them. There was a prevalent case of maladministration, apathetic attitude, the civil servants not catering to be the agents of social change, what they were supposed to be. And they were more like a kind of new Brahminical class. A new Brahminical class ka matlab kya hai? If you look at ancient India, the Brahmins used to keep themselves very secluded. The Brahmins used to keep themselves very secluded. They used to consider them to be pure and other people to be polluted. So they used to maintain untouchability with other communities because they used to consider themselves to be pure. So the Brahmins used to keep themselves way too above the normal people. So there's a social political theorist. His name is Rajni Arora. Rajni Arora has called the civil servants as the new Brahminical class. New Brahminical class. Just like Brahmins of ancient India who used to keep themselves very away from the other people, that they were not approachable. Similarly, in today's scenario, the bureaucracy or the civil servants have converted themselves into a new Brahminical class. That is, once they get selected, they forget about where they come from. They forget about whom they are supposed to serve. Like, for example, if I ask you, a civil servant serve the political master, yes or no? Then whom does he serve? The people of India. All right? The people of India. So those civil servants who do not have high ethical standards, those civil servants consider themselves to be answerable to the political bosses, but they forget that the political masters who are selected, the politicians who are selected, they are selected by the people of India. And if the rule book says that the civil servant should be answerable to the political masters, the rule book mean to say that through the political masters, the civil servants have to be answerable to the people of India. But it was not the case, because the civil servants who were decorating the government position, those civil servants were turning out to be the new Brahminical class. They were unapproachable. They forgot about from where they come. They forgot about their social status previously. They forget about various other dimensions related to their duties, responsibilities towards the people of India. And therefore, it was decided that by the various committees that were set up to reform the civil services, that we have to introduce a paper in civil services whereby we can introduce ethical responsibility, morals in the civil servants, such that they do not become the new Brahminical class, yet they become the agents of social change. In 2013, UPSC has transformed the structure of this examination. They introduced 4 GS papers. In GS paper 1, you have to prepare your history, your culture, your geography, an idea about your society. In paper 2, you have to prepare international relations, governance, history, polity, constitution, social justice. In paper 3, you have to study science, environment, ecology, internal security, disaster management. If you see these 3 papers, in these 3 papers, UPSC is testing the knowledge that you have about everything that is around you, right? But there is nothing in these papers, GS paper 1, 2, 3, to test what actually is inside you. For that very purpose, in 2013, on the recommendation of various civil services reforms committee, the paper Ethics, Integrity and Aptitude was introduced. And this has introduced a very interesting I would say a very interesting paper in the syllabus itself. Because this paper is something which is not there in your conventional books. I've seen people mugging up the conventional books in this paper and ending up in a score of 85 out of 250. I have seen people not even reading a book, understanding the concepts and scoring 110 out of 250. I have seen same people who in the previous attempt mugged up the books and got 85 out of 250, and these people in the next attempt have got 120 out of 250. What does this show? This show that this paper is very dicey. You can never be concretely sure. You can, pardon me, you can never be concretely sure as what score you are going to get. Why? Because this paper has a very peculiar demand which many people fail to appreciate. So what is the demand of this paper? The demand of this paper is that you have to understand the concepts. You don't have to mug up the definitions. If you look at the definition of the term, let's say ethics, if you look at in any of the standard textbooks, such as Lexicon, all right, Subba Rao, or if you go with any other publication, if you look at the standard definition of ethics, that definition is first of all very difficult to understand for the person who does not have a background in psychology. At the same time, neither he has the background in philosophy. If you look at ethics, ethics is a branch of philosophy. So do you have to be from philosophy to learn ethics for GS paper 4? No. Had that been the case, then my dear friends, only philosophy optional students would have been scoring marks in GS paper 4. But this is not the case. So what does it mean? It means that even if ethics is a part of philosophy as a study discipline, the paper that comes in the examination is not philosophy oriented. This is one basic lack of understanding that people in this paper do when they go for appearing in their mains examination. They mug up the definition. समझ में नहीं आया ये कहना क्या चाहता है, लेकिन definition बिल्कुल ad verbatim रटी हुई है और वो वहां जाके spill out कर देते हैं और examiner को पता चल जाता है. The examiner comes to very well be aware of the fact that this is just a mugged up definition. That means he has not even espoused what ethics are. They want you to absorb ethics and reproduce those ethics in the answer copy in an original or natural manner. If you are writing something which is your mugged up definition, that means your answer is not natural. Your answer is artificial. That means you have just mugged it up for the purpose of gaining marks. You have not absorbed the concept. But I'm not saying that if you absorb the concept, you will be free of corruption. Why? Corruption depends upon n number of different things. लेकिन कहीं ना कहीं पे inside your own subconscious, you will be knowing something as ethics, integrity, and aptitude. And at one point of time, you may transform into a good officer. I'm not saying that you all will be corrupt, but I'm saying that some of the person, because of some other peer pressure and number of different things, might practice some uncalled for practices while discharging duties as a civil servant. But if you have absorbed the principle of ethics, integrity, and aptitude, you will not be corrupt. So this examination wants you to absorb the concepts. This paper wants you to absorb the concept and not mug up the concept from the standard text. And this is the reason that people fear this examination way more than anything else. All right? They fear this paper way more than anything else. So in this class today, I'm going to tell you that the concepts that you will be learning in this paper, they are not to be mugged up the way they are presented in the books. Rather, they have to be simplified and learned in such a manner that you can produce examples from the newspaper and from your surrounding. So my burden of proof by the end of this lecture would be to make you acquainted with all the concepts in this ethics syllabus that will be in layman's language and the language which is required in examination. So you all must have got, those of you who are there on Zoom and offline, you must have got a sheet of terminologies. All right. So if you go and compare and contrast this sheet and try to find out the definition of these concepts from any of the standard books, you will find that none of the definition is a copy paste from any of the source. Reason being, those definitions are philosophical definitions, not to be implemented in your GS paper 4, right? All right. So let's now start discussing the various concepts that are there in ethics syllabus and try to learn the spirit of paper 4, that is ethics, integrity, and aptitude. All right. All right. Okay. All right. So if the name of the syllabus is ethics, integrity, and aptitude, why don't we just begin with the very first thing, that is, let's learn about the definition of ethics itself. All right. So let's begin with the first question. What is ethics? What is ethics? Now, if we say what is ethics, all right. You go and look into any of the standard textbook on ethics, they will say that ethics is the study of moral philosophy. This is one of the very common definitions that the examiner is going to find in the answer sheet of the candidates who have not absorbed the concept, yet they have gone with mugging up the definition. क्योंकि हर किताब में लिखा है ethics is the study of moral philosophy. What is moral philosophy? ये नहीं पढ़ा. So examiner को पता चल गया कि you haven't understood what ethics is. You have just mugged up the definition seen from some standard book and copy pasted it here. What is ethics? Often we say that this person's conduct was ethical and this person's conduct was unethical. That means we are looking at the conduct of the person and classifying that person's conduct as ethical or unethical, good or bad, desirable or undesirable. That means that ethics is something, it's a yardstick. It is something with which you compare a person's conduct. Suppose this is ethics, this is person's conduct, you compare and contrast. If they resemble, then the person's conduct is ethical. If they don't resemble, then the person's conduct is unethical. So first thing we have understood that ethics is a kind of yardstick. It's a kind of heuristic device. What is heuristic device? Heuristic device is something to measure. So ethics is a yardstick. It's a heuristic device. किस चीज के लिए? For what? To either describe a human conduct as good or bad, desirable or undesirable. So what are ethics? Ethics is a kind of yardstick, or it's a kind of heuristic device to either describe एक action हो चुका है, a person's conduct has taken place and you are investigating that conduct to be good or bad using a yardstick or a heuristic device called as ethics. Now, can these yardstick be also guidelines? Yes. For what? For the human action which is yet to take place. So ethics can also be guidelines for a potential human conduct. To make that human conduct as good or bad. So you have now understood the spirit of ethics. Key ethics is a yardstick to measure a human action which has already taken place and classify that action as either good or bad based on this yardstick or this heuristic device. Or you can also consider that these heuristic device, this yardstick, is also acting as a guideline for the potential human conduct which is yet to take place, such that that action or that conduct becomes a good conduct. Understood? Ye hai ethics. But then we have understood the essence of ethics. What we have discussed this so far is known as essence of ethics. We have yet not understood what are ethics. We have understood the essence of ethics, that ethics is something against which you examine a conduct of the human being which has already taken place, or ethics is something that lay down certain guidelines for the human action to become a good human action. Right? Good. So now, what is this yardstick or this heuristic device? So those principles or standards of human action that have got universal acceptance as desirable, they are known as ethics. Ethics क्या है? Ethics वो principles हैं. Ethics are those principles or those standards of human actions which have got universal acceptance to be desirable, they become ethics. Like for example, if I ask you a question that love for mankind, is it a universal accepted principle of human action? Is it universally accepted? क्या सभी समाज love for mankind को accept करते हैं? बिल्कुल करते हैं. Everyone. Every society in the world accept love for mankind. So love for mankind is a principle which if you reflected in your action, or which if you will reflect in your action, will make your action what? Ethical action. So ethics is the set of all those standards of human action which are universally accepted as desirable. That is, these principles of standards of human action, they act as a heuristic device to either describe a human action as good or bad, or these standards of human action act as guidelines for a potential human action to be classified as a good human action. This is the definition they want in the answer sheet. They do not want to read the definition that ethics is nothing but the study of moral philosophy. It doesn't explain you anything about that. Is it clear now? So this is the definition or the kind of definition that is required in your answer sheets. Now, whatever definition we are going to go and discuss ahead, they have been brought down to this level of understanding. And this level of understanding is to be presented in your answer scripts. If you do not do that, then you will end up below average marks. So now we have discussed that ethics is a yardstick or a guideline for human conduct. I have used the word conduct here. Did I use the word action? Did I use the word action here? No. Now the question or the next definition that we are going to learn is, what is the difference between conduct and action? If I'm saying that ethics applies to human conduct and not to human action, then what do you mean by human action or human conduct? So let's understand this thing, because this is where UPSC is going to play with you. In this paper 4, UPSC asks you concepts which you know, but you cannot write, explain. Like, for example, if I ask you what is human action, what you are going to say? What is human action? So we all act out. I am doing an action right now. But can you write those words to explain my human action? No. So over there, you will be in a very perplexed situation that I know this thing, but I don't have words to write. And the examiner will be laughing at your answer script in a joy. Suddenly, he is not mocking at you. He is mesmerized by the new definitions that you are crafting under the stressful environment of examination. Just take an example. All right, I'll give you this example to prove that in ethics paper, you know the concept, yet you will not have words to write down. Like one small exercise. What is happiness? What is happiness? We all feel happy at some time. We all have experienced happiness. So my dear friends, what is happiness? The joyous moment. A feeling of joy. So what is the difference between joy and happiness? What is happiness? Satisfaction. Then what is the difference between satisfaction and happiness? And why do we have two words? One satisfaction and one happiness. If happiness was synonymous of or synonym of satisfaction or joy, then there should not be the word happiness. We could have contended, we would have been satisfied just with one word, that's satisfaction. Why do we have the word happiness? Because happiness is something different. Ananya, I'll come to this thing. Hold on. Yes. Fulfillment of desire is happiness. Okay. Okay. Anything else? When conditions are favorable. Absolutely. This is what was required. What is happiness for you may not be happiness for me. Think about the scenario. A person who is suffering from an ailment, and if he gets cured, he will experience happiness. A poor, if he gets resources, he will feel happiness. A rich person who is suffering from insomnia, if he gets a sound sleep, he will experience happiness. So happiness, first and foremost thing is, it is subjective. Subjective state of what? Mental or physical well-being. It is a subjective state of physical or mental well-being. A person who is suffering from mental anomaly, mental disorder, he will be feeling happy if he feels again mentally normal. A person who is suffering from physical abnormality, he will feel happy if he is getting rid of that physical anomaly or abnormality. So this is how UPSC plays with you. It's a question from the 2014 or 15 mains. What is happiness? And people, when we conduct test series over here and we assess the people, we get to learn about the definition of ethics like, happiness, like happiness is of two types: short-term happiness, long-term happiness. And we really appreciate those answers, because they, we get to learn something new, which is not at all required for the examination. But yes, the thing is, this paper has this thing. You know about the stuff, but sometimes you lack the word for it. And in our ethics course that I teach here, my purpose is only to provide you those words or that capability to think that you can even lend words to those things that you do not know. Right? So let's now come to the second definition that is there in our sheet, and that is, if ethics is the investigation or guideline for the human conduct, then what do you understand by the conduct, and how does conduct is different from human action. This is what we are going to discuss second as our definitional concept. All right. So what is human conduct? And how it is different from human action? This is what we are going to understand now. We always act out. Human action is always social. Why? Because we are social animals. We are social animals. Because of this reason, our actions are always social action. Dogs seldom have social actions. Other animals seldom have social actions. But in general, human beings always have social action. So what is social action? Social action is a meaningful response. It is a meaningful response to an external stimulus or stimuli. When human beings try to convey a meaning to an external stimulus or stimuli is what we call as social action or action for that matter, right? Now, you know that human beings does not act out one single isolated action. From morning till this point in the day, you have acted out hundreds or thousands of those actions. When I look at those hundreds or thousands of those actions, I can make out a pattern in your action. That pattern in those chain of actions is what we call as conduct. So conduct is an average type of action that a human being act out, which is deciphered by identifying the pattern in the different responses human beings give to different external stimulus. Now think about a scenario. All right, think about a scenario. Mahatma Gandhi is known as the father of nation, but he is also known as the person who gave us the lesson of non-violence, right? चलो महात्मा गांधी तो बहुत यूटोपियन हो गया ना. Like for example, you know that there is some person who is very peace loving, है ना? Suppose you are a very calm and quiet person, but if somebody comes and poke you, first time you will avoid it, second time you will avoid, you may avoid it, third time you may switch your place, but you will not show your anger. But if that person again come back to your next new place and start poking you again, don't you think that at one point of time you will be irritated and agitated, right? So suppose throughout the day you have acted out 100 different actions, and one of the action was that of anger, and rest 99 actions were that of calm. Can I judge you as an unethical person based on only one action? If I really want to know about your morality, if I want to know about your ethicality, I will be looking at the average of those 100 actions, and average of that 100 actions are known as conduct. You are a very calm and quiet person, non-violence ke pujari hain aap bilkul, and you are posted in a riot-prone area. And to control the riot, if you have ordered lathi charge, that doesn't make you a person who is always engaged in violence. Instead, that isolated event has to be neglected and foregone. And your average of the actions have to be seen to understand what ethics you are guided by. So what is human conduct? Human conduct is nothing but it is the average type of human action, which is the average of the different human actions that a human being perform, which describe a lot about the individual's personality, his values, his attitude. All right, so that's human conduct. So if you read the definition, The definition of human conduct is very simple, that human beings act in chain of action. The chain of actions that human beings act out is called human interaction. There are patterns that can be identified in these chains of human actions. These patterns are called human conduct. And ethics is the inquiry into your conduct and not your action. Is it clear? All right. Now, coming to the next dimension of our discussion, when we say ethics, do we mean that ethics are there Chavi, I'll again read out the definition of human conduct. Human beings act out in a chain of actions because one isolated action does not exist. If I say something to you, you will respond it in a manner. So it's a one exchange of multiple actions. So human beings act out a chain of action, and that chain of action is known as interaction. When I analyze the interaction of different people, I can find certain patterns in those interactions. That pattern that is there in your interaction is known as your conduct. Your conduct will give me complete knowledge or a good amount of knowledge about your character, right? I cannot judge your character by just witnessing one isolated incident or one isolated action that you have acted out, but I can comment about your character or the set of values that you possess. If I see a chain of actions or I analyze you over a period of time, I can easily predict your character. What is character? Character is the set of values and attitudes that you possess. All right. So, like for example, we sometimes say there is the person who he truly is, self. Self is made up of values and characters, so values and attitude. That value and attitude is known as character. Character is reflected in your conduct, and conduct is reflected in your action. Average type of actions will give knowledge about your conduct. Knowledge about your conduct will give me knowledge about your character. And what is character? Set of values and attitudes that you possess. So who you really are is directly related to what you act out. Because who you really are is your character. Your character will become the basis of your conduct, and your conduct is generally reflected in your actions. So through ethics, I am trying to know about yourself, your character, your conduct, looking at your different actions. So this is ethics. And this kind of representation in the examination is really appreciated if you can give these kind of diagrams. It is generally seen that answer scripts that have theory written with a lot of diagrams are generally given more marks if your diagrams are relevant and try to express some new point that is not there in your theory. Clear?
So you talk about here the chain of action. We have this one human action. So can you call human interaction as also human action?
Human interactions are chain of human actions.
Human interactions are a chain of actions, but the only thing that the chain of actions is also an action.
See, the thing is, you are made up of infinite number of cells. So can I call you a cell? That's what it is, right? Action is something which is the unit of a larger thing called as interaction. Ultimately, I can break you down to the level of the cell or not. Yes. Chalo, cell chodo, I can break you down to the level of tissue. Your cells give rise to tissue, tissue give rise to organ, organ give rise to organ system give rise to the human body. So can I say human body as cell? No, they have independent role and independent level of organization. So human action is the basic unit over which interaction is built. Over interaction, your conduct is reflected. Right? So it's a different organizational level that we are talking about. All right. So let's now talk about universality. Does ethics apply to some specific people, or are ethics universal. Can we say ethics of India, ethics of Pakistan, ethics of Afghanistan? Can we say that? Yeah, we can say that, right? So like we can say that ethics is that of Indian ethics are different from Pakistani ethics. No. If you try to remember the definition that we wrote of ethics in the very beginning of this class, I told you that ethics are the universally established principles of human action. Those standards of human action which are universally established, which have got universal acceptance. So what is ethical in India has to be ethical in Pakistan. What is ethical in Pakistan has to be ethical in USA, because it is generally accepted universal standards of human action.
For instance, Pakistan says there's a difference. Pakistan
until and unless you will not know about what is morality and what is ethics, you cannot comment upon this thing right now. So just I'm coming to it. Ethics are always universal. Ethics are non-contextual. Ethics हर देश के लिए, हर इंसान के लिए same होता है, which have been unanimously decided by the scholars of the world to be acceptable and desirable. So ethics are non-contextual. वो change नहीं होते कि इंडिया के लिए ethics अलग है और पाकिस्तान और यूएस के लिए ethics अलग है. No, ethics are same for everyone. What is not same for everyone is morality. Morality can be contextual, ethics cannot be contextual. So there is, now we are coming to the next definition, and that is what are morals? What are morals? What is morality? So we have to contrast these two things, and I'm telling you this difference because they are actually quite similar yet different.
So one more thing in ethics, we say that human conduct, which is good or bad. At the same time, that good or bad is also when we talk about morality.
But the thing is that good or bad is universal good or bad. Abhi we are coming to it. That's what I'm saying. Ek bar just be a bit patient, and then everything will be falling in place again. So ethics, they are the universal standards of human action. ये पूरी दुनिया ने एक्सेप्ट कर लिया है कि हाँ, these are the best way to act out. When you go and bring specificity about the human action as good or bad, that are known as morals. So what are morals? Morals are also standards of human actions or human conduct. To classify human conduct as good or bad. All right. हाँ भाई वीडियो स्टॉप हो गया क्या किसी का? Is it visible everyone? हाँ भाई online? Is it visible? Okay, good. ठीक है. एक सेकंड, just एक बार ये explain करने दो. So morals जो हैं, just like ethics, they are also standards of human conduct to classify things as good or bad. But the thing is, these standards of human conduct are not universal. They are not universally accepted. They are not universally accepted. They have not got the universal acceptance. So they are not universally accepted. They are rather contextual. So for example, there may be morals of Indian society. There may be morals of Italian society, morals of Greek society. But there cannot be ethics of Indian society or ethics of Greek society, because ethics is ethics. Ethics is same for everyone. The set of ethics that apply to India are the same set of ethics that apply to Greek society, that apply to Italian society, that apply to French society, that apply to American society, because ethics apply to the entire human race. But when you seek certain standards of human conduct as good or bad pertaining to your taste, pertaining to your society's taste, pertaining to your constitution's taste, pertaining to your national taste, then it becomes morality. For example, if I ask you, eating vegetarian food is good or bad? It is contextual. Those who are vegetarian, they will call that this is bad. One should not eat non-vegetarian food. Those who are non-vegetarian, they would say कि क्या फर्क पड़ता है? It's a full source of nutrition. One should eat non-vegetarian food. Then who is right and who is wrong? Neither the vegetarian is right nor the non-vegetarian is right. They both are right in their own ways. They both are wrong in their own ways. So it is the morals of a vegetarian and morals of a non-vegetarian. There is nothing related to ethics of food. Ki food should be the food should be vegetarian or the food should be non-vegetarian. अभी एक नई प्रजाति आई है लोगों की vegan, है ना? वो अलग ही क्लास है बिल्कुल. कुछ टाइम बाद कोई और आ जाएगा. Are you getting my point? So what suits your taste, what suits your way of believing what is good or bad is always morality. So morals are narrower than ethics. Ethics are universal, non-contextual. Morals are contextual. Morals can apply to one person. It can be my morality. It can be your morality. But it cannot be my ethics and your ethics. Ethics are same for everyone.
It means when a few people say that they are wrong, it is immoral in their perspective.
In their perspective. But if someone says you are unethical, that means you have done something against the universally established standards of human action. Suppose your act has resulted into mob violence, then you are unethical because you have violated an ethical principle. But if you have done something which you think is right, but others may think it's wrong, so they may call you immoral, but they will not call you unethical because it's not debated. But the problem is in our common terminology, in the layman language that we use at home, hum ye hey, unethical banda, hey, ethical banda. This is what we have to refrain from replicating in the examination. And UPSC has asked this question: what is the difference between ethics and morality? So morality is nothing but it is about the standards of human action, which is contextual. Ab jaise for example, you know that Sabrimala temple issue was there. In the Sabrimala temple, the women in their reproductively active age were not allowed to enter into the Sabrimala temple. Now, there are two groups of people. Some say that it is justified. The followers of Lord Ayappa, they say it's justified. But there are people who believe that gender should not be any basis for not allowing a woman into the temple. So they both are right in their own ways. So there is a morality of Sabrimala temple followers, there is a morality of Ayappa followers, and there is a morality who are non-Ayappa followers. So the morality of the non-Ayappa followers says, let the women enter into the temple without any obstruction. But the morality of the Ayappa followers says no. यहाँ पे ethics नहीं apply होगा. Ethics यहाँ apply नहीं होगा. यहाँ पे morality apply होगी. Very good. On what basis this judgment was given? And this question was the part of the GS paper 2 question. Now the debate is between two different moralities. One is known as the constitutional morality and second is known as the societal morality. The societal morality is that of the Ayappa followers and the constitutional morality is that of the constitution. Now it is upon you which one you want to consider supreme. And India follows constitutional supremacy. So automatically constitutional morality comes over the societal morality. And the constitution in itself has given right to equality, non-discrimination on the basis of gender, freedom of religion is also there. But here you have to see individual rights are more important than religious rights or what. So constitution ruled in favor of women to be allowed in the Sabrimala temple. So the constitutional morality is supreme than societal morality.
So there are still some part wherein the women are not allowed.
अभी भी चल रहा है ये तो नहीं allowed है.
So no allowed नहीं, but I'm saying that Supreme Court has given the judgment that they should be allowed. So
but it is not happening.
It is not happening. That is definition. It is not implemented. My question is, when there are on this basis of judgment, there are some temples in Assam where men are not allowed. then men should also be
बिल्कुल अलाउड होना चाहिए, फिर वो केस करो, and by this constitutional supreme morality men will be allowed. So the thing is, see, when the Supreme Court goes for making a judgment, it makes for a particular case, right? It doesn't make universal judgments. फिर next कोई incident उसको Supreme Court के सामने ले आओ, then Supreme Court will test the morality of that particular issue and will rule in such manner, right? All right, let's go ahead now. So you are now clear between what is morals and ethics? Clear between what is morality and ethics? That's right. So morality is contextual, narrower standards of human action. Those standards of human action which apply to the universal population is known as ethics, right? All right. So now let's talk about what are the sources of ethics. All right. All right, sir. There's a doubt. Tisha is asking, how can ethics be same? You said that it depends upon action which a person perform. Yes. Which a person perform with respect to what? With respect to ethics. Ethics are universally established standards of human action. उसके respect में ये action good है या bad है. इसीलिए अगर वो, if those standards of human action are universal, that it doesn't matter that you are in America or you are in India, your action will be ethical in India as much as it is ethical in the US. All right. There's one more question here. Sir, hijab controversy in the news. So it is the part of morality or ethics? It is the part of morality. Absolutely. It is the part of morality. All right. Now, the best thing for the court is to go with the constitutional morality and interpret this controversy in favor of constitutional morality and not societal morality. So we have to look into how court agrees to it. Yes.
Can we say that ethics are related to the intention?
More of action. Yes. Ethics applies to intention. See, एक अच्छी चीज इन्होंने बोली है, and I'll discuss this thing because I'm taking this class as a liberty to make you learn some new insights which you know but you may not appreciate as such. So right now he said that ethics applies to intention. Okay, let me say there's a person who commits a murder. Is he done an illegal act? He has done an illegal act. Now if a person thinks to commit a murder, is he done an illegal act? Because law does not apply to intentions, law applies to actions. But ethics applies to your intentions also. Like for example, if you are intending something wrong, that means that your value system is wrong. That means your character is reflected to be wrong. And your ethics test your actions through your conduct, through your character, through yourself. So yes, ethics even applies to intentions where law does not apply.
So we can say that those laws which are based on ethics.
Certainly. Chaliye, now let's look into what are the sources of ethics. If we have said that ethics are the standards or universal standards of human action, so the question that comes to our mind right now is that what are the sources of ethics? Where these universal standards of human action are coming from? All right. You can say all ethics are universally moral. Yes, all universal morals are known as ethics. वो कह सकते हो, है ना? बिल्कुल. So sources of ethics क्या हैं? The sources of ethics, number one, morals. Morals are the sources of ethics. But what kind of morals? Morals that become universally accepted. Those morals that become universally accepted, they become ethics. So morals are sources of ethics. If there is some principle that you think is a better way to act out, and if that become universally accepted, that will automatically become ethics. So the first source of ethics are morals. Those morals which got universal acceptance, they are ethics. Then second, values. Your values. If those values are constructive for the mankind, so any action that is emerging from these values, they will automatically become ethics. Like for example, there is a value known as tolerance. Tolerance is a value. Do you all agree? Tolerance. We all are same in the world. Is it right or wrong? Are we all same? No. We have mutual differences. But then, is your right to live more than other person's right to live? Everyone has equal right to live. What does it mean? It means that even if you have differences, everyone has equal right to life. That means that we all must be tolerant, and tolerance is a value. This tolerance gives rise to a standard of human action which has got universal acceptance, and that standard of human action is respect for mutual differences. If your action will reflect the respect for mutual differences, your action will automatically become ethical. Because every society in the world which is progressive or human welfare oriented society, that has accepted that no person, no two people are equal, and every person has equal right to life. And when every person has equal right to life, that means that tolerance is the human value that will give rise to a standard of human action, that is respect for mutual difference. That means that values can also be sources of ethics. Another source of ethics can be social norms. There are certain acts of behavior which are prescribed by the society. They are known as social norms. And if you do not act out those behavior, you will be punished by the society by imposing sanctions upon you. Like, for example, whenever you see an elderly person, you must pay respect to that person, right? It is the social norm of Indian society. So this social norm of Indian society is based upon the belief that the elderly people, they are the storehouse of wisdom. They are the storehouse of wisdom, the knowledge gained through experience. And because they are the storehouse of knowledge, they deserve respect. And this social norm has been globally accepted today as a standard of human action. So sometimes those social norms which become universally accepted standards of human action, they become ethics. Like, for example, in India, there is a belief of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, that the entire world is one large family and we all are the members of that family. So this has given rise to the standard of human action, that is, we should resemble or we should reflect universal brotherhood in our actions. We should treat everyone to be part of our large family. And if your actions are emerging out of the social norm of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, then your actions automatically become ethical. So those social norms which become universally accepted, they will become ethical. So today there are social norms related to food habit. Some people say vegetarian is food, some say non-vegetarian is food. If tomorrow universally it is accepted that the vegetarian food is good, then it will automatically become part of ethics. Until then, it is morality, right? Sometimes even laws can be the source of ethics. Laws can be source of ethics. Sometimes we haven't understood, sometimes we haven't explored a way of life, but some people who are the lawmakers, they have already explored it. They can think about it and make laws to implement it. For example, we are not aware of, so like majority of us, we are heterosexual, straight oriented people in our sexuality. That male will be attracted towards female and female will be attracted towards male. But we haven't yet we do not know about, or we do not have any experience about homosexuality. But the lawmakers are sitting in the legislature who discussed about this thing. That what if the people are having attraction towards the same sex? Is it good or bad? And when they talk about it and they believe that sexuality is a natural phenomena, it can be an attraction towards heterosexual person or it may be towards the homosexual, it doesn't matter. And therefore they make a law that there is a complete freedom of sexuality. We haven't yet we do not know anything about homosexuality, but a law has taught us something, that sexuality is natural and If there is an attraction towards the same sex, doesn't matter, it's perfectly fine. So that law has taught us a universal way of life, which is good way of life. So the law has given us ethics. That law has become ethical law. Is it clear, everyone? So sometimes human brain, through mutual discussions, can come to know about something different, which will be accepted as universally good. So law can be the source of ethics as well. Now, another source of ethics is religion. बहुत जरूरी है ये religion. अनन्या उल्टा कह सकते हैं, morals are the subset of ethics. Okay, हाँ ठीक है, ethics are the subset of moral. Those morals which become universal, they are known as ethics. Yes, yes, ठीक है, you are right, अनन्या, ठीक है. All right. Now, religion can be the source of ethics. This is the fifth source of ethics which is there in your sheet. Religion. Can religion be the source of ethics? Yes. Why? First question that should come to your mind is, why is even religion considered to be the source of ethics? Why? Because her religion क्या कहता है? हमें follow करो, and that is the best way of life. Am I right? Hindus say that Hinduism is the best way of life. Christians say Christianity is the best source of life. Muslims say Islam is the best way of life. Every religion, when it emerged, every religion claimed to be the best way of leading the life. That means every religion claimed to be ethics, right? But is it true that every religion is ethics? No. Every religion, though they claim to be the ethics, but they did not turn out to be ethics, because every religion is polluted in one way or other. Like, for example, in Hinduism, there's a cult of sacrifice. Killing an innocent animal in the name of religion, who will call it ethics? That means every religion teaches some ethics and some morals. Those morals need not to be included in ethics. Like, for example, in Hinduism, there's a belief that whenever there will be a ritual, the first person to be fed is a Brahmin. Why? If the first person, instead, it should be the first person to be the fed should be the one who is hungry. भैया भूख लगने में जात पात का क्या रोल है? नहीं है ना, कुछ नहीं है। भूख तो एक शूद्र को भी लग सकती है, एक क्षत्रिय को भी लग सकती है, एक वैश्य को भी लग सकती है, एक ब्राह्मण को भी लग सकती है। तो भैया अगर सपोज करो एक टाइम पे सबसे पहले एक ब्राह्मण और एक शूद्र भूखे हो गए, तो भैया पहले उनको खाना खिलाओ ना। ये जरूरी है कि सबसे पहले ब्राह्मण को खाना खिलाना? इज इट नेसेसरी दैट द ब्राह्मण हैज टू बी द फर्स्ट वन टू बी फेड? विल यू कॉल this particular belief of Hinduism that the Brahmin should be fed first to be ethical? No. But in Hinduism, we have certain aspects, like, for example, we have inclusivity, that Hindus believe that every god is equal, and they teach in a way tolerance for all religion. तो भैया वो हो गया ethical, ये ब्राह्मण को पहले खाना खिलाना हो गया moral, but not ethical, right? Similarly, in let's say similarly in any other religion for that matter. अब जैसे जैनिज्म है, नॉन वायलेंस की बात करते हैं, बहुत अच्छी बात है, बट जैनिज्म कहता है खुद को भी पीड़ा दो. इज इट गुड? you have come to this world to live a life, then live a life, man. Why to face that pain? खुद को mortality दो, खुद को पीड़ा दो, यातना दो, क्या मतलब है इन चीज का, right? So that cannot be called as ethical. But yes, the principle of non-violence is ethical. The principle of non-violence is ethical, but non-possession may not be ethical. To live a comfortable life, I need to possess something. I cannot live like a person without any possession. It's not necessary that you should be a celibate. भैया करो बच्चे पैदा, क्या प्रॉब्लम है उसके अंदर? हाँ, नॉन वायलेंस एक अच्छी चीज है, बाकी सारी की सारी चीजें मतलब या most of the things become morals. So even religion is the source of ethics, but not everything that the religion prescribe is ethics. Every religion claim to be ethics. Yes. It should be ethically challenged. They didn't call themselves to be the law. Had they called themselves to be the law, you could have challenged them legally. They are calling themselves to be ethical. You can challenge them ethically. You can call a priest and you can say, man, whatever you are saying may be ethical only to some extent, but otherwise it's not ethical. Then you can challenge it. Sorry, come again. Ethical but not lawful. Then you can challenge those laws in terms of ethicality. You can challenge them and then you can prove that these laws are unethical. Those laws will be changed. Why would ethics be changed? Laws are narrower in scope, specific. Ethics are wider. Law may apply to one aspect, ethics applies to entire human race. So if there's a law which is unethical, it may be changed. It has to be changed. For example, let me give you an example. In Ireland, there was a law that says that the women cannot go for abortion. So there was no freedom of abortion. There was an Indian nurse, Savita, who was working in Ireland, and she got a complicated case of pregnancy, and the doctor said that if we are not going to abort the child, then the mother and child, they both may die because of the pregnancy related complication. The Ireland society did not allow it to happen, and the lady died. The lady died. Was that law ethical? No, that law was unethical, because right to life applies to everyone equally. A life which is yet not born, if that's a threat to a life which is already existing, it's better to save the existing life than having a potential life to come and survive. Is it clear? So that those laws which are unethical need to be changed. Ethics are supreme. Homosexuality is ethical or not? Freedom of sexuality is ethical. I'm not saying homosexuality is ethical or not. I'm saying freedom of sexuality is ethical. भैया अगर homosexual को homosexuality practice करनी तो करने दो, क्या problem है? He is not forcing heterosexual to practice homosexuality. Let it be. Because it is natural phenomena. किसी को बताया, हमें बचपन में बताया थोड़ी जाता है that you have to be attracted towards the other sex. It is something that comes to us naturally. So if something is natural, then you cannot question that thing. And therefore homosexuality, if it is natural, yes, certainly it is ethical. Or I should rather be very firm and say in a very layman language that freedom of sexuality is ethical. Right? All right. So we have got to understand the sources of ethics. Now let's focus one thing exclusively. What are values? Another thing which I'm going to ask you, and you would be having the sense but not the words to write this until unless you have read the sheet. What are values? क्या होते हैं values? What is a value? Individual का? Individual approach. This will not fetch you marks, this definition. ऐसे ही definition आते हैं exam में if you have not espoused the spirit of the topic. Values. जैसे, हाँ, yes.
Beliefs that everyone possesses. Values for everyone can be different.
So belief is value?
Not exactly, but
Beliefs are values. कौन से belief? Those beliefs or ideals that you attach a worth to. जेब में वो गांधी जी पड़े होते ना, रंग बिरंगे रंग के, पर्पल रंग का ज्यादा वेट वाला गांधी है ना, हरे रंग का थोड़ा सा कम वेट वाला गांधी है. That rupee note that you have, does it carry a value? Yes. What does it mean? That means that note has a worth attached to it, and that worth is attached to it by who? Which agency give that? RBI में कौन? RBI governor. If you ever have an opportunity to read that 2000 rupee note, उसमें लिखा होता है, मैं धारक को 2000 रुपए अदा करने का वचन देता हूं. That I promise to pay the bearer of this note a value equivalent to 2000 rupees. That means that that piece of paper has 2000 value attached to it. It has a worth attached to it. So what are values? Values are those beliefs or ideals to which you attach a worth. Now, those ideals or beliefs could be beneficial for the human being, maybe destructive for the human being. For example, greed is a belief or ideal, but if a person is greedy, he is going to attach high worth to greed. So greed is a value, but is greed constructive or destructive? Destructive. Greed is destructive. That means that if you attach worth to those ideals or beliefs which are destructive for the mankind, you are a bad human being. Because you possess what are known as disvalues. Disvalues are those ideals or beliefs to which a person attaches a worth, and these ideals and beliefs are destructive for mankind. These ideals and beliefs are destructive for mankind. So this kind of person who has disvalues, he is a bad human being. Jaise the Joker of North Korea, Kim Jong-un, he has all the disvalues associated that can be named in him. He is jealous, he is envious, he is greedy, he is intolerant. है कि नहीं? वहीं पे दूसरी तरफ आप देखिए मदर टेरेसा. All those beliefs and ideals which are constructive for mankind, she had worth attached to it. Love for mankind, love, care, tolerance, benevolence, forbearance. So those ideals and beliefs to which you attach worth are known as values, and those ideals and beliefs to which you attach worth and are destructive for mankind are known as disvalues. Those ideals or beliefs to which you attach a worth and they are constructive for human society, they are known as human values. So human values will always result into good things for the human society, and therefore human values become the source of ethics. Human values will never result in anything bad. Can love ever cause any damage? Can it? बताओ कैसे? Acid attack.
Yes.
One-sided love.
We have seen cases where, like there was a case very recently in Gurgaon where a girl, she rejected the guy. They were in a relationship. She rejected the guy, and after that, the guy ran her over with his car.
वो love था.
So, but
The question is that love?
So but that action was perpetuated from the
Love. अब वो maybe चला गया. That maybe will not work here. Is that love? The first question. That is not love. So how come you can blame love for that action? That was lust. Had that been love, he would have taken even the rejection in a good faith. Love doesn't mean possession. It is lust that make you possess something. So that was not love, that was lust. And lust is a disvalue that resulted into a destructive act. Can care result into something destructive? फिर उस चीज का क्या जो माता पिता केयर के चक्कर में आपको गोवा का ट्रिप नहीं जाने दिया? What if we care for your lot, my dear son, my dear child? That's in the context of concern, and therefore it's not constructive. Even that is not care, my dear friend. Care means that you have to respect the individual's desires. That's more of insecurity and possession again. So that was the insecurity of our parents that did not let us go to Goa with our friends on school trip. But then that insecurity might be emerging from your disvalues also, and that is of disobedience and past track record of a history sheeter. समझ रहे हो? आपकी हिस्ट्री शीट देखी जाती है कि आपने कितने पुण्य किए हैं, that you will be allowed to Goa trip or not. Okay, so what I wanted to prove is that human values will never result into any kind of destructive act, but disvalues will always result into destructive act. But then there are sometimes values which are neither constructive nor destructive. Let me give you an example. When we love one and for them we are ready to damage some other. No. When you love someone and then you are ready to damage for that person for other, no, that's not even love. है ना? चलिए देखिए, love को define करना है तो what is love? Love is a sense of attraction coupled with responsibility, respect, and care. Love has an element of responsibility for the person whom we love. Love has an element of care for the person whom we love. Love has an element of respect for mutual differences towards the person whom we love. That is known as love. Right? That precisely is what we call as love. Love is not just a infatuation hota hai, jo physical attraction hota hai, that's known as infatuation. हाँ, नहीं होना चाहिए, लेकिन वो लव के खिलाफ नहीं है. I am saying that if there is an evil, to stop an evil, there may be something which appears evil to you. Let me first, we are not going into that debate of love jihad, because according to me there is nothing like love jihad. Okay, that law is a attempt to nullify those forced conversions on the basis of marriage. If that law is there, there might be a possibility, which I will not debate if there is a possibility or not, but there is a possibility that some group might be attempting at forceful conversion of one group of people into another religion. To prevent that forceful conversion, because forceful conversion on the basis of incitement, inducement is not good. If there is a willful conversion, I am standing with the person who want to convert willfully. There's no doubt about that. But if there's a nefarious intention involved behind conversion, and that conversion is through deceit or inducement, then no. So ऐसे लोगों को रोकने के लिए अगर ऐसा एक law है तो I don't think so it's wrong. Then it's not ethics, then it's more about morality. You are coming to the narrower level. Okay. Yes. Values become part of your character. Your character is reflected in your conduct, and your conduct is what you act out. Yeah. So
Somehow there should be more
moral, see, again the thing is they both are different. But yeah, ideals and beliefs give rise to standards of human action. Standards of human action are morals. Ideals and beliefs, they are the values. They both are different, right? What you believe is what you will make a standard about. That standard will be called moral, and what this belief is known as value. This is where UPSC play the dirty game with the candidates. That they want to understand if you have espoused the spirit behind the words that you read in this syllabus. If you haven't, then yes, then it will become a very muddy ground for you to fetch really good marks. कभी तुक्का भिड़ गया 110, नहीं भिड़ा 85. Okay, that doesn't mean कि पिछले साल आप ethical थे, इस साल आप unethical हो गए. All right, okay, let's come back to our discussion. All right, so now sometimes there are values. Sometimes there are values, and those values may be neither destructive nor constructive. Let me ask you, is education a value? Do you attach a worth to education? Yes. That means education is a value. But is education good or bad? It can be both. What type of education? Education can be constructive as well as destructive, because education is a neutral in its original nature or character. In original nature or character, education neither is constructive nor is destructive. Why I am saying so? I mean to say that if you look at education, and if you are a good human being, if you have human values, your education will be used for something constructive and good. Just take for example Homi Jagir Baba. Homi Jagir Baba was a person who was educated in nuclear physics. Now he has an education with him but he was also having good values like patriotism, love for mankind, love for his nation, that he used his education for the civil energy, nuclear energy generation for the energy starved country like India. So he used his education for the constructive purpose. But at the same time, there is counterpart in Pakistan, AQ Khan, Abdul Qadir Khan. Abdul Qadir Khan, also a nuclear physicist, but he was having the disvalues like greed that made him leak the secrets to the nuclear weapon development to North Korea as well as Libya, threatening the existence of mankind. Because ये जो देश है नॉर्थ कोरिया लीबिया जैसे, they can anytime launch a nuclear weapon and the entire world can suffer. So Abdul Qadir Khan also had education. Homi Jahangir Baba also had an education. But the other values, human values or disvalues, will determine the use of education. So those values that do not have any intrinsic property of good or bad, just like education, those values are known as instrumental values. And those values which are intrinsically destructive or constructive, they are known as fundamental values. So what are fundamental values? Fundamental values are those values which have an intrinsic character of either being constructive or destructive. For example, anger, jealousy, hatred, they are intrinsically destructive. And because they are intrinsically destructive, they are fundamental disvalues. And those values which are intrinsically constructive, you do not need any other value to justify their purpose. They are known as fundamental human values. For example, love. Love can never result into anything bad. Care can never result into anything bad. Benevolence, tolerance can never result into anything bad. Empathy can never result into anything bad. Are you getting my point? So those values which are constructive intrinsically, they are known as fundamental human values. And those values which cannot express their character without the use of any other fundamental values are known as instrumental values. For example, your intelligence is a value. But your intelligence, is it a constructive or destructive value? It depends upon what fundamental values you possess. If your fundamental values are destructive, your intelligence will be put to wrong use. If your fundamental values are constructive or human values, your intelligence will be put to good use. So instrumental values versus fundamental values. Human values versus disvalues. And what are values? So in a way, we have got a complete picture of what values actually are. Right? So what values actually are? Now, human actions or human conduct reflect your character. Now we are towards question number 9, all right? Or 9th point. Okay, now we are coming towards what is real education. I don't know what is real education. Education is education. All right, the knowledge that the cognitive knowledge that you get, that is known as education. अब वो real है, virtual है, I don't know. All right, there is nothing like real education. All right, let's again come back to our discussion. Now, I say that human actions, if we look at the average of your human actions, I can come to know about your conduct. Right? I can come to know about your conduct. Your conduct is reflecting your character, and your character is made up of two things: your values and your attitude. अब बात आती है attitude क्या होता है? What is attitude? So the next definition that we are going to learn here is attitude. Attitude. So let me summarize. Attitude plus values, they make up your character. Your character shapes your conduct. Your conduct is reflected in your actions. So we have understood human actions. We have seen what is conduct. We have looked into what is character. We have looked into what is value. Now we are left with what is attitude. What is attitude? I'll not tell you, sir, my attitude. What is attitude? What is attitude? How to respond or react to a particular thing. Okay, that will be more of an action. That will reflect your attitude. Then what is attitude, my dear friends? What is attitude?
So it is an average behavior. It is average behavior of a person.
Behavior is same what you are telling me as actions. It is not behavior. Attitude is reflected in your action. Yes, that's right. Shamyukta, that's good. Sir, values can be universal or not. Values are universal. Values are certainly universal. All right, mental and emotional entity. हाँ भाई बताओ क्या होता है attitude? Awkward, sir. Ego. Sir, उसमें बहुत attitude आ गया sir. That's not attitude. That's called ego. Attitude is mental predisposition. Attitude is mental predisposition or a mental inclination towards an object under consideration. But this predisposition is a learned predisposition. So what is attitude? Attitude is a learned predisposition towards an object अंडर कंसिडरेशन. जिस ऑब्जेक्ट को आप कंसिडर कर रहे हो उस ऑब्जेक्ट के टूवर्ड्स एक जानी पहचानी मेंटल इंक्लिनेशन इज नोन एज एटीट्यूड. लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल, इफ आई, हाउ मेनी ऑफ यू लाइक डॉग्स? हाउ मेनी ऑफ यू आर अफ्रेड ऑफ डॉग्स? Now the thing is, some of you love dogs and some of you are afraid of dogs. That's your mental inclination. I have told you dogs and you have created your bent of mind. Those of you who like dogs, you must have got an emotion of, yes, joy and happiness. Okay, sir is talking about my favorite pet. Those of you are afraid, you must be terrified at your back कि हाँ एक बार कुत्ता पीछे भागा था उसके बाद नफरत सी हो गई है. That experience makes your predisposition learned. That is known as an attitude. Those objects that have given you pleasure in the past, your predisposition will be favorable. So that will be a favorable attitude. And those of you who had an experience that was not good for you about that object, that will be known as unfavorable attitude. So attitude is always a predisposition which is found on certain circumstantial knowledge. So this learned predisposition can either be an experience or some cognitive knowledge that you have acquired from somewhere. Right? Sometimes you see there's a small child who is not eating something, and then you try to elicit a favorable response from him by taking a spoon of that food and telling him, yum, yum, yum. And then child says, oh, he enjoyed it. That means it's something good. And next time you feed the child and he's happy to eat it. You have given him that cognitive knowledge by yourself demonstrating that it's good. So the child has developed a learned predisposition towards the object, that's food. So that's attitude. It's a mental inclination. It's a bent of mind. It's a mental state towards an object under consideration, but it has to be always on some prior experience or the knowledge that you have got. If I went to the US and I give you a very brilliant insight about the US, you all will be mesmerized. So I have already given you a cognitive knowledge and created a favorable response in your mental state of mind. Says that once you get a time, once in your lifetime you get an opportunity to travel to the US, you will never miss that thing. अगर मैं वहां जाके बोलूं कि मैं तो जी जैसे ही न्यूयॉर्क उतरा मेरे को तो वहां पकड़ के जेल में डाल दिया, बोले तू तो इंडियन है, तू तो ब्राउन है. मैं जेल में बैठा बैठा ब्राउन मुंडे गा रहा था. All right, and your picture will be like, oh no, never ever I'll travel to that land. So I have given you knowledge, and on the basis of that knowledge, you have created a bent of mind. And so, my dear friends, that is known as attitude. What if your bent of mind is not learned? अगर आप अपना bent of mind बिना किसी experience और बिना किसी knowledge के बनाते हो तो उसे क्या कहते हैं? What is it known? What is it called when you make a mental picture about or mental inclination about something which is not at all based on your previous experience or knowledge? That is known as prejudice. That is known as prejudice. Prejudice is also a bent of mind towards an object under consideration, but it is not learned. It is unfound inclination of mind. Generally it is, because it is the human nature to criticize the other. All right. There is a person known as Thomas Hobbes that we cover in our ethics syllabus. He has called that human being is by nature brutish, short-tempered, myopic, disastrous. And therefore, yes, prejudices generally are negative, unfavorable attitude. It may be. I'm not saying that it's always. Mostly it is because of the human nature. So prejudice, like take for an example, prejudice is you call that, oh, she is a lady, she cannot drive well. This is a prejudice because you have developed a bent of mind. Now even the ladies are laughing. All right, that's great. So that's a bent of mind which has been created not on any sound found basis. So it's a prejudice. Then what is stereotype? Stereotype emerges from prejudice. When you apply your prejudices to a class of objects, that's known as stereotype. Stereotype are women can never be good drivers. That's stereotype. Prejudice is she cannot be a good driver because she is a lady. And you see, can you see that? Stereotype, when you put an unfound belief, unfound mental inclination, mental picture on the class of objects under consideration, that is stereotype. Without any unfound experience, without any unfound knowledge, or without any profound knowledge or experience. So attitude and prejudice, they are very much linked. Only difference is attitude is always learned, whereas prejudice is unlearned. Right? And stereotype is when you apply your prejudice to a larger class of objects. What our attitude should be for interview? Positive attitude. If you will have a bad attitude for interview, then you will never be attempting this paper. It has to be very favorable. No, prejudices are not learned. See, prejudice always transfer in the form of prejudice. ऐसा थोड़ी कि मेरी prejudice आप सुन लोगे तो वो आपका attitude बन जाएगा. No. If I have told you a prejudice, suppose करो कि I have a prejudice that women cannot drive, or I have a prejudice that the girls cannot drive good. All right, and I tell you, so it doesn't mean that you have learned it from me. So your prejudice will not be prejudice; it will be attitude. No. The thing is, it has to be valid knowledge for attitude to be true. If I am telling you something which is prejudice for myself, then my dear friends, it will be prejudice equivalent for you because you are not gaining the knowledge from the attitude of some other person. Are you getting my point? अगर मैं prejudiced हूं किसी एक सोसाइटी के लिए और उसका बखान कर रहा हूं आपके सामने, favorable prejudice, I have an inherent inclination towards the Western way of life, and I have already created a prejudice that West is the best. Are you getting my point? So if you get this knowledge from me that West is the best, it doesn't mean that you are having attitude. You are still having prejudice. Why? Because your knowledge or your disposition is based on another prejudice which you got from me. Right? And my prejudice may be without experience and without true knowledge about that society. Right? So this is the difference between prejudice. This is the knowledge difference between stereotype and attitude. I am sure that it must be clear to you now. Right? All right. Now, sometimes there's a question that, okay, we have got understand attitude, but then what is aptitude? This is also sometimes coming in a way in a very general discussion. कई बार हम ये शब्द use करते हैं, aptitude. What is aptitude? What is civil services aptitude? What is aptitude in your GS paper for ethics, integrity, and aptitude? What is aptitude? skill. अच्छा, अगर skill और ability same है, then why do we have two different words? Analytical skills are called aptitude. No.
Ability to learn something.
Very close. Aptitude through training will convert into a skill or ability. So what is aptitude? Aptitude is a potential to acquire a skill. Aptitude is a potential to acquire an ability. In this paper, you have civil services aptitude. Your aptitude is being judged. If you have the aptitude, you will be recruited as a civil servant so that with training, you can be converted into a skilled civil servant. Right now, you are a potential civil servant. If you have aptitude, you will be selected. If you don't have an aptitude, then put in your resume. We'll select you if you find any place for you. All right. So if you have an aptitude, you will be shortlisted. Through training, that aptitude will be converted into a skill. So aptitude is a potential to acquire an ability or skill. So that is aptitude. All right. Now, in your syllabus, you are going to see sometimes the words like foundational values. What do you understand by the term foundational values? Foundational values are generally associated with an institution. For example, you can consider the foundational values of India's constitution. Yesterday, you had this class with Raj sir. He must have told you about preamble, constitution, and XYZ things, right? Then what are the foundational values of India's constitution? Liberty, equality, fraternity, social justice, equality, right? जितनी भी सर ने कल आपको प्रियम्बल के वर्ड्स बताए थे ना, रिपब्लिकनिज्म, सोशलिज्म, सॉवरेनिटी, all these are the foundational values of India's constitution. So what are foundational values? Foundational values are those values which were expected in an institution or a document or a society or a nation to possess when it was formed. So what are the foundational values of civil services? Sorry, foundational values of Indian Constitution? Those values which were put in Indian Constitution by the constitutional forefathers when the Constitution was being drafted. That is what is known as foundational values of Indian Constitution. Similarly, in your syllabus, there is a topic that is known as the foundational values of civil services. What do you mean by the foundational values of civil services? The foundational values of civil services are those values which were expected to be in civil services when civil services as an institution was set up. Can anyone try to guess some foundational values of civil services? क्या क्या चाहिए था civil servants के अंदर? What values do you think a civil servant should possess? Honesty, compassion, empathy, tolerance, respect for constitution. भैया बहुत जरूरी है. A civil servant is not about the constitution. Constitution is about everything else. Respect for constitution, nationalism, open-mindedness, if there is something like that. ठीक है, openness, है ना? Open-mindedness is nothing. Openness, or what else? There are n number of values. All the values which are human values are expected to be in civil servant. भैया होना चाहिए ना, तभी तो एक अच्छा इंसान होगा. एक अच्छा इंसान ही एक अच्छा civil servant हो सकता है. अब civil servant जो है, he is working within the ambit of the constitution. So all the foundational values that are there in the constitution has to be there in that person. So respect for the constitution, constitutional ideals. Besides that, there are certain requirements of a civil servant which are supposed to be fulfilled because he is decorating civil services. So there was a committee that was set up by the Prime Minister of UK, Uttarakhand, United Kingdom. There was a committee that was set up by the Prime Minister of UK, and that committee is known as Nolan Committee, which pointed out 7 foundational values of civil services, which can be learned by an acronym OSI OLA. O exclamation वाला, SI सब इंस्पेक्टर, ओला in Spanish hello. आप SI को hello बोल रहे हो. So O SI ola. So these are the 7 values which you can learn by this way. Objectivity, honesty, selflessness, integrity, openness, leadership and accountability. नोलन कमिटी ने ये 7 वैल्यूज बताई हैं, लेकिन मैंने आपको एक चीज बता दिया that these 7 values के अलावा भी there are a lot of foundational values. A civil servant has to be a good human being, so all the human values are the foundational values automatically. He has to work under the Constitution of India, so all the constitutional values are his foundational values. At the same time, he is decorating Indian civil services, so civil services pertaining values are also the foundational values. What is objectivity? So the first value is objectivity. Can values be developed? हाँ भैया, वैल्यूज बचपन में पैदा होते हुए लेके आते हो या बाद में डेवलप होती है? बाद में डेवलप. Values are not what you are born with, rather values are what you inculcate over the period of time in your life through the agents of socialization like your peers, your family, your school, your society. Aptitude लेके पैदा होते हैं या बाद में डेवलप होता है? बाद में डेवलप होता है. एप्टीट्यूड तो लेके ही पैदा होते हो, इसमें कोई दो राय नहीं है. बाद में कम हो सकता है. ट्रेनिंग से स्किल डेवलप होगा, लेकिन वो स्किल एक्वायर करने की एबिलिटी बचपन से ही डिसाइड होती है. एप्टीट्यूड, you are born with an aptitude. It is just that if you do not recognize that aptitude is lost. There are many people who are right now having a lot of aptitude but playing PUBG. Aptitude lost. है कि नहीं? Aptitude is what you are born with. Over the period of time, yes, your aptitude might be slightly improved by intervention. Suppose karo कि looking at you, can you ever think that you could have beaten this Usain Bolt in 100 meter race? Would you have beaten Usain Bolt in 100 meter race? नहीं, क्योंकि हमारा एप्टीट्यूड बचपन से ऐसा नहीं था. वो जो बंदा है जो इथियोपियन हाईलैंड्स में पैदा होते हैं, they are living in low oxygen condition right from childhood, so they are adapted, their muscles are adapted to produce no lactic acid when they are exerting exercise. आप लोग भागो 100 मीटर, थोड़ी देर में देखना ऐसे हाफेंगे, थोड़ा जोर से हाफ लिया तो लंग बाहर आ जाएगी, है कि नहीं? But that is not the case with those Ethiopian people. Why is it that the people from Kenya, Ethiopia, they are the one who are winning the marathon? Because their body is adapted to such things. We cannot beat them. So our aptitude is different from their aptitude. भैया इंटेलिजेंस भी आप बचपन से डिसाइड होता है. अगर किसी बच्चे के बचपन में ही अगर वो सपोज करो if someone is not born with the cognitive or intellect IQ as much as you are, कितना भी उसको टॉप स्कूल में डाल लो नहीं होगा ना. होता नहीं है कि कई बच्चों there are some unfortunate, no I should not call unfortunate, they are also equally fortunate for everyone. My name is Khan देखी होगी फिल्म, है ना? उसमें he was suffering from autism ही था. Even in Burfi, Priyanka Chopra was suffering from autism. So now they do not have an aptitude for civil services, maybe, which has a lot of public dealing. So they do not have aptitude for civil services, the people suffering from autism, because public civil services, it deals with public dealing, but autistic person is more conservative and you don't want to interact with the people. So they do not have aptitude for civil services. Kitna hi kuch kar lo, best coaching institute mein padha lo, they cannot be the civil servant. Are you getting my point? Until unless their autism is cured, which I don't think so is even a disease. But at the same time, autistic people have a great tendency to find pattern in randomness. वो ऐसे पैटर्न ढूंढते हैं रैंडम फिगर्स के अंदर. You cannot even think about that. They given the autistic people, given the people who are suffering from autism, a random data pool, they can quickly try to find the pattern there. So they have a very strong aptitude for finding patterns in randomness, which we do not possess. So every person has some other aptitude that they are born with. We can, through interventions, through good education, through good training or initial skill building, we can shape up the attitude little bit, but we cannot develop the attitude altogether. आप इंटेलिजेंट थे, बढ़िया एजुकेशन ने आपको और थोड़ा इंटेलिजेंट बना दिया. Are you getting my point? So aptitude is something that you are born with. So aptitude is you are born with, values you inculcate in the life. Attitude, are you born with it or you develop later? Attitude be you develop later through your life experiences and knowledge. No, it's not necessary. Aptitude only include abstract knowledge. So what will be difference between aptitude and creativity? कोई बात नहीं, अभी full course बाकी है. There's a lot of difference there that we will talk about. Let's little bit discuss about the 7 values that were pointed out by Nolan Committee. The first is objectivity. What do you mean by the term objectivity? What is objective and what is subjective? What is subjective? Subjective is something which differ from different people. Like for example, if I ask you, which is the sweetest smelling flower? इनके लिए लेवेंडर है और सबके लिए लेवेंडर है. कोई मोगरे का दीवाना भी होगा, कोई चमेली का दीवाना होगा, कोई रोज का दीवाना होगा. You have something else? No? अच्छा. किसी को मित्रों कमल भी पसंद होगा. है कि नहीं? Getting my point? So the thing is, the smell of a flower is subjective, which is different for different people. Then what is objective? Objective is the opposite of subjective. When something is uniform, when something is same for everyone, that is known as objective. Like for example, if I ask you, sun rises in the west, true? Rises in the east hoga. So sun rises in the east. Is it an objective fact or subjective fact? It is objective. It's a universal truth for everyone living on earth, provided we are deciding it on the basis of the frame of reference that's earth, right? So the thing is that objective is something which is absolutely based on facts. So what is objectivity? Objectivity means that a civil servant should make decision. Civil servant should govern on the basis of evidences and merit. He should not work on the basis of his personal likes and dislikes. He should look into the merit of the case, evidence, and then make a decision, informed decision. This is known as objectivity, right? ऐसा नहीं कि if you are a district collector, all right, and it's about 5 p.m. and you have to leave for a meeting, and then you see a gentleman, and beyond that gentleman there is a girl standing who is very pretty, and you call, hey gentleman, give side. हाँ मैम बताइए क्या वो है. You cannot do that. That's subjectivity. You have to either, if you are bound for the time कि मैं 5 बजे से ज्यादा नहीं रुक सकता, मुझे मीटिंग में जाना है, so it doesn't matter कि पीछे प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी ही क्यों ना खड़े हो. ठीक है, ऐसा होगा नहीं. Alright, but खड़े हैं मित्रों तो छोड़ो, 5 बज गए. Everyone is equal for you. Everything is to be determined by merit, evidence. What is honesty then? So we have seen what is objectivity. What is honesty? क्या होता है honesty? Transparency. Then what is the difference between honesty and transparency? nahi. See, Khushmandeep, it's not necessary that you have to consider the problem at hand with a third person view. You have to understand the problem at hand on the basis of the merit and evidences that are present in front of you. भैया ऑब्जेक्टिविटी का मतलब यह है कि आप कलेक्टर हो, आप उन मेरिट और उन एविडेंसेस के बेसिस पर डिसीजन लोगे. अगर आपकी जगह कोई कलाकार भी कलेक्टर हो ना, तो उसको भी वही डिसीजन लेना है उन एविडेंस और उन फैक्ट्स के बेसिस पे. सो व्हेन यू गो फॉर डिस्चार्जिंग योर ड्यूटीज प्योरली बेस्ड ऑन मेरिट्स एंड एविडेंसेस, दैट इज नोन एज ऑब्जेक्टिविटी. नाउ द क्वेश्चन इज व्हाट इज ऑनेस्टी देन?
Discharging the duty or performing the duty without any wrong.
Okay, You will not fetch exact marks for this. Though I know what you are trying to convey, that's true. Huh? Non-corrupt is honesty. Again, you will not fetch. अगर 5 नंबर का आंसर क्वेश्चन है, अगर आप इसी चीज को एलिब्रेट करोगे तो मैं आपको 1 या 1.5 नंबर दूंगा, इससे ज्यादा नहीं. भैया ऑनेस्ट इंसान कौन होता है? Is that person honest? Suppose करो कि आप कुएं में कूदने जा रहे हो और आपका दोस्त देख रहा है और वो चुप है. Is it called honesty? वो ऑनेस्टी होगी जब आपका दोस्त आपको उसमें कूदने से रोक दे. आप बोले नहीं मुझे कोई मजा आएगा कूद के, वो बोल रहा है नहीं कूदने दूंगा. That is called honesty. Honesty is a candor in relation. CANDOUR. Candor means there is something open. So it's not even openness. So honesty is candor in relationship in which you give a feedback which is candid without any deceit, duplicity, or any wrong intention. That is known as honesty. If you are a civil servant and if there is a person, suppose you are a civil servant, you are the principal secretary to, or you are the secretary to the Prime Minister's office, और वहां पे प्राइम मिनिस्टर आपसे बोल रहे हैं मित्रों मैं सबके अकाउंट में 15 लाख का वादा करने वाला हूं. And if you are an honest officer, you will tell, sir, don't do that. We can't do this. It will not be possible to put 15 lakh rupees in everyone's bank account. If you don't do that, you are not an honest officer. Because you know it's a common basic economics यार कि इतने नोट छाप दिए कि सबके अकाउंट में 15 लाख दे दिया, मतलब 15 लाख की वैल्यू कितनी होगी? 0. Are you getting my point? यानी जो चीज आप आज 15 लाख की खरीद रहे थे अब वो जाके 1.5 करोड़ की हो जाएगी. Inflation. That's called what is inflation, right? So what is honesty? Honesty means you have a candor in relationship, that you do not act within deceit, duplicity, or wrong intention. You give a very candid feedback, which is always a constructive feedback. That is known as honesty. What is selflessness? Keeping your interest on the backside in front of the professional interest. Selflessness means that you do not give personal interest any consideration when you are discharging your official duties. That is known as selflessness. What is then integrity? Integrity का मतलब है how well you are integrated to the organizational goals. If I am over here teaching in this institute, but I am saying bad things about this institute, about this institution, which are wrong, which are incorrect, which does not hold true, then my integrity with this institution is poor. That means I'm not able to integrate myself with the goals, objectives, aspirations of this institute. So what is integration? Integration is when you have what is integrity? When you have integration with the organizational goals, aims, objectives, principles. That is known as integration. But this integrity is external integrity. Individuals' integrity with the external organization. Then what is internal integrity? Internal integrity होता है कि आज से सोचा मैं 15 घंटे पढ़ के IAS बनूंगा. जोश जोश में पिताजी को बोल भी आए कि अब से 15 घंटे पढ़ेंगे, और अगले दिन. That means you lack your internal integrity. Internal integrity is what you think, is what you speak, is what you do. So a person has to show both internal and external integrity if he has to discharge his functions as an officer of the civil services. He must be integrated to the goals, aims, objectives, and principles of civil services. At the same time, he must have internal integrity. What he speaks is what he thinks is what he speaks, and what he speaks is what he do. That is integrity.
Also following the values of an institution.
Yes, if you are part of this or institution and you are not following, then you are lacking that integrity, external integrity. Bilkul ji, integrity results into acceptance of organizational values. Yes. All right. Then next is openness. What is openness?
Listening to ideas or without judging.
Bilkul, ठीक है, perfect. Openness means being open to inquiry, investigation, assessment, or even feedback. That is known as openness. You should work without any fear of investigation. Your work should be open to investigation, inquiry, assessment, and even feedback. That is known as openness. So another is openness. Before we talk about leadership, what is accountability? Satisfactory answerability to the discharge of office function or official duties. That is known as accountability. You should give a satisfactory explanation to the authority that demands accountability from you. That is known as accountability. It's a legal answerability. What is responsibility then? What is the difference between responsibility and accountability? What is the difference between responsibility and accountability?
A senior can be accountable for a task given, but he may transfer responsibility onto one of the subordinates.
What is responsibility?
Responsibility is something where we are in the matter, where
The moment you explain something in ethics and then you put it is something, that means your answer is incomplete. Moral obligation, moral answerability is known as responsibility. Responsibility is moral answerability. Accountability is written or legal answerability. When you are responsible, you are morally accountable. When you are accountable, you are legally accountable. So responsibility cannot be assessed, but accountability can be assessed. If you are not accountable, you can be punished. There can be a law for non-accountability, but there cannot be a law for non-responsibility. Because responsibility is always moral in character. Accountability is always legal in character. So that is responsibility. And last is leadership. What is leadership? What is leadership? Leadership is a value that gives a person capability to take decision, lead a group, bring coordination, coherence, and cooperation in otherwise a random group. That is known as leadership. So what is leadership? Leadership is nothing but it is providing coordination, direction, command, vision to a group of subordinates. Leadership is based on the quality of being decisiveness. If a person cannot decide, then what leader he is? He is as confused as his subordinates, right? So a leader is someone who can direct, command, cooperate, coordinate, otherwise a random group. But he should be very dexterous at providing decision or taking decision. So these are the 7 foundational values of civil services. Right? Now, do ethics only apply to government services? It even applies to private sector as well. What are ethics in private sector called? Or what is the ethical way of functioning of the private sector called as? No. Corporate governance. What is corporate governance? Corporate governance is functioning of the private sector, corporate sector in an ethical manner. If the government functions in ethical manner, it is called as good governance. And when the corporate sector functions in ethical manner, it is known as corporate governance. So whatever we have discussed in this period of today's class is a very superficial understanding of whatever we cover in our ethics syllabus. But I'm sure that with this sheet, if you cross verify our definitions, you will not find the definitions the way we have discussed in the class. And this is the precise reason that if you just go by the book knowledge in ethics paper, it is a gamble. You might get marks, you might not get marks, depending upon how you interpret your understanding. So this paper is purely understanding based paper, and this is the modus operandi in our classes, that we go through discussion and bringing down everything to a layman's language, because UPSC gives marks to lucid explanation and not technical explanation. Clear? So I think that with this, A implies accountability. So I think that we can call it a day here. I hope you have got to learn something new today, right? Chaliye, that's all from my side. Take care, everyone, and stay safe. See you soon later. Bye, everyone. Bye.